Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To get your own very copy of Qasas Al-Nabiyīn Part 1, Special Edition, which features extensive vocabulary, grammatical analysis, rhetorical elements, syntactical insights, Quranic linguistics, overview of verb patterns, diacritical mark reference tables, Hansware dictionary abbreviations, over 1000 word forms, then click in the link in the description below.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So Alhamdulillah, we have story number 8, Rabbi Allah. So inshallah, let's get started with the I'rab. So we have the title here. So let's zoom in, inshallah. So the first word we have is Rabb. Now Rabb means Lord, and because it's conjoined with Ya'ul Mutakallim, the personal pronoun Ya, it'll be Rabbi, my Lord. And then again, we are joining onto the word Allah. So Rabbi ends with a sukoon, and then the word Allah, it starts with a sukoon because there's now vowel marking at the beginning. So in this case, we'll normally would give a kasra to the sakin, the first sakin. But in this case, we'll be given a fatha because going from a kasra to a fatha, it would be difficult. So saying Rabbi Yillah. So that's why we will have to say Rabbi Allah with a fatha. So Rabb means Lord and the Ya means my. Next we have the word Allah. So the Ismul Jalala is the khabar. So this sentence is actually, the title consists of Mubtada and Khabar. So Rabbi, my Lord, is the Mubtada and Allah is the Khabar. That's why we're going to read it marfu with the Dhamma. And generally titles, they sometimes can be complete sentences. Then you'll do the I'rab according to Fail, file, maf'ul, or mubtada khabar. Sometimes it's just a possessive phrase. So we have the first sentence. So the wa means and, or if you want to consider it to be ibtida'iyya, then we can just leave it without the meaning and it's mabni, so it's going to be mabniyun ala al-fath. Then we have the past tense verb. Now this is from daraba yadribu. So for verbs, we have to know the verb pattern. And because it's a past tense verb, past tense verbs are indeclinable, so this will be mabniyun ala al-fath, and it means to know or recognize. Who recognized? Ibrahim. So Ibrahim is the fa'il of arafa. So Ibrahim knew. So Ibrahim is a fa'il, so fa'il is marfu, but we're going to give a single dhamma because it's غير munsarif, mamnu'un min as-sarf. It's not fully declinable, so it will have no tanween. Next we have the particle anna, which means that. So all particles are mabni, indeclinable, so this will be mabniyun ala al-fath. And we know that anna governs like inna because it's one of the sisters, akhawat of inna. And how does inna govern? It has a ism which will be mansoob, generally with a fatha, and the khabar will be marfu. So the khabar ism of anna is ismul jalala. So we're going to say anna Allah. That leaves the next word, which is Rabb, to become the khabar. And the khabar of inna and its analogues, or you could say its sisters, is marfu. So we're going to say anna Allah or Rabbu. And the pronoun at the end is mabniyun ala dhamm because pronouns are considered to be mabni. So in this case, it will be mabniyun ala dhamm. However, they can still experience a state because it's will be considered to be fi mahalli jar, his Lord. So it's in the position of being mudaf ilay. So we have the first sentence, وَعَرَفَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّهُ. And Ibrahim realized that Allah is his Lord. Or we can translate Arafa as knew. So Ibrahim knew that Allah is his Lord. Because we did say in our previous lesson that saying that the Son is my Lord and then, it disappears, etc. And how can this be my Lord? all that was according to the claim of his people. Whereas Ibrahim alayhi salam, he knew from the beginning that Allah is his Lord. He did not consider, according to the Mufassirun, some Mufassirun, that the sun or the moon are deities, etc. That was according to the claim of the people, and he was trying to refute and prove them wrong. Li is harful jar, so it's mabniyun ala al-kasr. Next we have anna again, so mabniyun ala al-fath. And like we mentioned before, its ism is mansub, so it's going to be with a fatha. So li anna Allah, the word hayyun is becoming the khabar of anna. That's why it's marfu, so that's why we say li anna Allah hayyun. Because Allah is ever living. La is a particle mabniyun ala sukun, particle of negation, harfu nafyin. Now yamut is from mata yamutu, which means to die. This can even come from bab daraba yadribu, mata yamitu. That's why in the Quran we see aidha ma mittum and muttum. There's two qirats there, because it can be considered from daraba yadribu or nasarayan suru. But in this case, it's yamutu, so it's going to be from nasarayan suru. Marfu with a dhamma, because there's no governing particles before it. So how does this translate? لِأَنَّ اللَّهَ حَيٌّ لَا يَمُوتُ, because Allah is ever living and does not die. Now there's an atf taking place, so waw is atifatun here. Particle, so mabniyun ala al-fath. Anna again is a particle, so it's harfu tawkidin wa nasbin. It's a particle which comes to reinforce, and also it puts it's the mubtada in the state of nasb, and it will be known as the ism of anna. So wa anna Allah. And the next word is baq. I'm going to say qun, qan, or qin. Well, this word is marfu. We're not going to say baqun, because this word is actually considered to be ismun manqus. We did mention in our previous lesson, what's ismun manqus? It's a noun that ends with ya sakina, and before it there's a kasra. That becomes evident when you put the al before it. So al-baqi, al-baqi. So words like al-baqi, al-hadi, these words which end with ya sakina and they have a kasra before it, they will be termed to be ismun manqusun. Now, what's the i'rab formula for these words? In the state of raf, the dhamma will be assumed. So we're going to read it baqin, but the assumed version is actually wa anna Allah baqiyun. But because in ismun manqus, the dhamma is not evident. It's implied, but it's not evident. It's not there in the wording. So that's how these words would be read in the state of raf, baqin. So you don't say a judge came, ja'a qadin. So the dhamma is applied. Originally was ja'a qadiyun. That will be even the case in the state of jar. So marartu biqadin, I pass by a judge. It's only in the state of nasb the vowel becomes apparent. So if someone says I saw a judge, it'll be ra'aytu qadiyan, or ra'aytu al-qadiya, I saw the judge. The only thing is that when the L is not there at the beginning, you can't really make out the ya sakina on the parent. One way to notice ismun manqus, it'll come from those abwab where in the lam kalima there's harful illa, ya, or wow. So da'a yad'u, the ismul fa'il of those words, so da'in, which means caller. So da'a yad'u was da'awa yad'u. So we can see in the lam kalima there's a waw. Or hada yahdi, it was hadaya yahdiyu. So when you say guide, you'll say hadin. So those abwab which are naqis al-wawi, i.e. in the lam kalima, when you're pairing up with the skeleton form, it contains harful illa waw or ya. The ismul fa'il of those words will be considered to be ismul manqus. Okay, so moving on, we got la, which means does not. So it's a particle mabniyun ala sukun. Now this is from daraba yadribu, ghaba yaghibu. So for verbs, you got to know your verb patterns, and that's provided in the book. All the tables for verb patterns. Now there's nothing governing before it, so it's going to be marfu. Fa'il mudari, is mu'rab, so it changes, it accepts change, but because there's nothing governing before it, there's no an, lan, kay, idhan, or li, lam, lamul amr, etc., or conditional particles, it will be marfu. So la yaghibu. So wa anna Allah baqin la yaghibu, and that Allah is everlasting and does not disappear. So alhamdulillah, that's done. Moving on. Well, again, we can kind of cover this quickly now. Wa anna, both are mabniun al-fath. The ismul jalala is the ism of anna, is mansub with a fatha, that leave qawiyun to become the khabar, which is marfu. So wa anna Allah qawiyun, and that Allah is strong. So why is qawiyun marfu? Because it's the khabar of anna. Again, la is a particle of negation. It's mabniyun ala sukun, because all particles are mabni. This is from ghalaba yaghlibu, which means to subdue or dominate or overpower. So la yaghlibu, this is going to be marfu because there's no governing particles before it. He is not overcome. So the word who is a pronoun. It's mabniyun ala dham, will be experienced the state of nasb. Why? Because it's maf'ul bihi. So he is not overcome by anything. So the word shay is resulting in becoming the fa'il of la yaghlibu. And fa'il is marfu, so we're going to say la yaghlibuhu shay'un. So wa anna Allah qawiyyun la yaghlibuhu shay'un. And that Allah is strong, he is not subdued by anything. He is not overcome by anything. Next, wa is particle mabniyun al-fath. So it's doing atf on the previous sentence. Arafa is from daraba yadribu. Past tense verbs are mabni, so it's going to be arafa. Ibrahim is the fa'il of arafa. So Ibrahim is going to be fa'il marfu with a dhamma. Single dhamma because it is ghayr munsarif. Then we have the word anna, particle again. Mabniyun ala al-fath is indeclinable. All particles are declinable. Anna acts like inna, so its ism is going to be mansub, so anna Allah, and its khabar is going to be marfu. That means the word Rabb, we're going to read it here as Rabbu. Notice here, we're not going to read Rabbun because it's involved in a possessive phrase. So mudaf don't have tanween, so we're going to say Rabbu. That makes the next word mudaf ilay. So Rabbul kabi. Mudaf ilay is majroor, so that's why we're going to read this as Rabbul kabi. So وَعَرَفَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّ الْكَوْكَبِ. And Ibrahim knew that Allah is the Lord of the star. Now, وَأَنَّ, again, this is joining on to أَنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّ الْكَوْكَبِ. And in terms of tarkib, Arafa would be past tense verb, Ibrahim would be the fa'il, Anna with his ism and his khabar will become the maf'ul bihi of Arafa, because that's what Ibrahim knew. And that's the same tarkib you could do here. وَعَرَفَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّهُ. So Anna with his ism and khabar will become the maf'ul bihi of Arafa, because that's what Ibrahim knew. Now we're conjoining وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّ الْقَمَرِ to أَنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّ الْكَوْكَبِ. So again, these have been covered, so we can go through that. Both are mabniyun al-fath. Ismul jalala is the ism of anna that leaves Rabb to become the khabar. And because it's mudaf, there's no tanween. And Lord of the moon, so the moon is mudaf ilay majroor. Wa anna Allah rabbul qamar. And that Allah is the Lord of the moon. That's the same thing with wa anna Allah rabbush shamsi. So both wa anna are particles, mabniyun al-fath. Ismul jalala is the ism of anna, and Rabb is the khabar. So that's why we're going to read marfu. No tanween because it's mudaf, and ash-shams is mudaf ilay, and mudaf ilay is always majroor. And here we're going to give you a kasra. Wa anna Allah rabbush shams. So we can copy and paste wa anna Allah rabbu. Okay, because we've just covered that. Now notice here, the mudaf ilay here does not have a kasra. Rabbul alami, we're going to say na. Why? Because sound masculine plurals. What's sound masculine plural? When we change from the singular form to plural, the singular form remains intact. So alam means world. When say alamuna, it means worlds. Now, the question here is, if there's one world, how do you have multiple worlds? Okay. In other words, within this world, there are different species and creations and beings, and it's like as if they are living in the world of their own. So animals, they, live in a certain way. They have a lifestyle. It's like they are in a world of their own. Their own. Angels, jinns, human beings, etc. So, sound masculine plural words. How is the inflection taking place in these type of words? Well, in the state of raf, there'll be a waw, so alamuna. In the state of nasb, it'll be ya. So it's not a vowel, it'll actually be a consonant, it'll be a letter. So in this case, a ya. So alameen. And that will also be in the state of jar as well. So simple example, ja al-muslimuna. The Muslims came. Ra'aytul muslimina. I saw the Muslims. Maf'ul bihi with a ya. And in majroor, it'll be with a ya. Marartu bil muslimina. I passed by the Muslims. So same thing here, Lord of the worlds. So alamin. So here the i'rab is not through a vowel, it's actually through a letter, ya. So not through a haraka, through a harf. Or you could say a long vowel. You can put it like that. So alamina. And that Allah is the Lord of the worlds. Okay, moving on. Wa is a particle, it means and. So mabniyun al-fath. Now we have this word hada. Originally it was hadaya. Hada, yeah. So hada yahdi from daraba yadribu. So here what are we going to say in terms of i'rab? Well, we're going to say it's mabniyun al-fath al-muqaddar. Because the assumed version of hada was hadaya. So there's actually a fath, but it's implied. So that's why we're going to say here it's mabniyun al-fath. It's indeclinable with a fath, but it's muqaddar. That means it's not evident. So hada means guided. Who guided? Ismul jalala, Allah guided. So fa'al is marfu. Who did Allah guide? Ibrahim. So Ibrahim is the maf'ul bihi. So it's going to be Ibrahima. Notice here there's no tanween because the word Ibrahim is ghayr munsarif and it don't accept tanween. So wahad Allahu Ibrahima. Allah guided Ibrahim. Wa means and. Mabniyun al-fath. Ja'ala means made. So ja'ala is a past tense verb. And inside ja'ala we have the pronoun huwa, which refers back to Allah, and that is the fa'il. So that will make the who here maf'ul bihi. He made him. So in other words, Allah made Ibrahim. So the pronoun who here, waja'alahu, it's the maf'ul bihi. Even though it's indeclinable, it still will experience a state. So what state is ja'alahu, the who, experiencing? Well, if ja'ala is the verb, the fa'il is inside, and the who is maf'ul bihi, that means it's experiencing the state of nasb. Next word we have is nabi, which means a prophet. And you can see with the alif at the end, we're going to say nabiyan. Now, why we're reading this word as mansub, nabiyan? Because the verb ja'ala requires two maf'uls to make something into something. So waja'alahu nabiyan, Allah made Ibrahim a prophet. So the first maf'ul, ja'ala, is a verb which is transitive to two maf'uls. One was the pronoun, and he made him, and the second one has come as an apparent noun, a prophet. So nabiyan, it's mansub, okay, because it's second maf'ul bihi thanin of ja'ala. Wa means and, it's mabni yun al al-fath. Khalil now, here it means dear friend. So Khalil, why is this word mansub? We can see it ends with the alif, so it's going to be mansub. But why? The reason why Khalil is mansub is because doing atf on nabiyan. He made him into a prophet and a dear friend. So Khalil is being joined onto nabiyan. And we know from Arabic grammar, the word we joined is known as ma'tuf, and what we join onto is known as ma'tuf alayh. And the ma'tuf follows ma'tuf alayh in i'rab. Just as the way a sifa follows mawsuf, or you can call it a nat, follows man'ut in i'rab. We even covered ta'keed. There's 5 things that follow the previous 5 in i'rab. So in other words, they are indirectly governed. And one of them is when we conjoin via the conjunctive particle wa or any of the conjunctive particles. There's 10 in total. So here Khalil is being joined onto a Nabiyan. It's following the same i'rab. Nabiyan was mansub, so that means Khalilan is also going to be mansub. So وَهَدَى اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَجَعَلَهُ نَبِيًّا وَخَلِيلًا, and Allah guided Ibrahim and He made him a prophet and a dear friend. Next we have the particle wa again. This time we have the past tense verb amara. So this is from nasara yansuru. Amara. And in terms of the morphological breakdown of amara, is actually contains a hamza in the fa kalima. So this will be known as mahmuzul fa, amara. So who commanded? Allah. So Allah is the fa'il, so it's going to be marfu with a dhamma. Wa amara Allahu. Who did He guide? Ibrahim. So Ibrahim here is becoming the maf'ul bihi. So we're going to say Ibrahima, no tanween because it's ghayr munsarif. And Allah commanded Ibrahim. What did He command? He commanded him to, and here means to or that. So it's a particle. So it's mabniyun ala sukun, an. Now we have this verb here from da'a yad'u. Are we going to read it yad'u? No, because before it we see harful nasb, a particle that puts fi'lun mudari'un in the state of nasb. So that's why we're going to say yad'uwa. So notice here, an is impacting the fi'l mudari by rendering it with a fatha. So an yad'uwa. We're not going to be reading an yad'u. If it was in the rough state, it'll be read yad'u. But because there's an before it, it's going to be read an yad'uwa. Now next we have the word qawm, which means people. Now what we're going to read here, well, Allah commanded Ibrahim that. Now inside yad'u is the fa'il. He calls, which refers back to Ibrahim. So qawm means his people. So he calls his people. So the people here is the maf'ul bihi. And it's mudaf, so that we're not going to give it tanween, and it's mudaf towards the pronoun who, which is mabniyun ala dhamm, but still will experience the state of jar because it's mudaf ilayh. Next we have the particle wa, conjunctive particle. Now we have a fi'lun mudari'un here, which is from mana'a yamna'u. Now what are we going to read? Are we going to read yamna'u, yamna'a? What we're going to read? Well, let's look at what it's doing atf upon. It's conjoined to the verb yad'uwa. So we know that ma'tuf follows the i'rab of the ma'tuf alayh. So in this case, yad'uwa was mansub. That means yamna'a is going to be also mansub as well. Wa yamna'a. So an yad'uwa qawmahu wa yamna'a. And he prevents them. Whom is a pronoun, so for plural, masculine, which refers back to the qawm. So in terms of wording, it's singular because the singular of qawmun jama is aqwam. But in terms of meaning, it's actually plural because it consists of afrad, individuals, when you say qawm as nation or people. So whom here, it's mabniyun ala sukun. It's mabni, but it will experience a state. What state is yamna'ahum, the whom experiencing? Well, if yamna' is fi'lun mudari'un, the fa'il is hidden inside huwa, which refers back to Ibrahim, that he prevents. That makes whom to be maf'ul bihi. So whom is experiencing the state of nasb. Next we have the pronoun min, so it's mabniyun ala sukun. All particles are mabni, they don't be impacted. Ibadah, which means worship, it follows on from the harful jar, so it's going to be majroor with a kasra. Notice here we're not given tanween because worshipping of the idols. So it's a possessive phrase. Ibadatil asnam. So the word asnam is mudaf ilayh, so it's going to be majroor with a kasra. And stop them from worshipping idols. So our last sentence, وَأَمَرَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ أَن يَدْعُوَ قَوْمَهُ وَيَمْنَعَهُم مِّنْ عِبَادَةِ الْأَصْنَامِ. And Allah commanded Ibrahim to invite his people and stop them from the worship of idols. So Alhamdulillah, if I'm not wrong, I think that is story number 8 complete. Alhamdulillah, all the vowel markings have been explained in terms of i'rab. If anybody is interested in purchasing the book, there's in the description you'll find the link where you can purchase the book. All the vocabulary is mentioned here as well. So amara ya'muru, mahmuzul fa is from nasara yansuru. The singular and verb, the singular and the plural of the noun. So khalilun, plural, akhillau, nabiyun, anbiya'u. Notice here they are ghair munsarif, so there's no tanween. Okay, so even ja'ala yaj'alu ja'lan, to make someone into something. For example, leader. So it's contextualized the meaning. And you will find in the book as well the whole i'rab of this story, how we have mentioned it orally and dictated it. It can be found in the book. And there's also balagha points, so let's see if we can cover something here. Okay, so here there's a concept in Arabic called at-taghlib. At-taghlib means to give dominance to one thing over another. So when we say alam, and the plural could have been awalim or alamat, meaning as an irrational plural, because in the world we have rational entities and irrational entities. So we have like things that don't have intellect, and we have things that do have intellect. So intellect like human beings, non-intellectual creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have plants, vegetation, etc. So Allah is the Lord of all these. So why was the dominance given to the rational entities over the irrational? Why wasn't it said, Rabbul Alamat? Why was the preference given to the sound masculine plural, which is used for rational entities, Rabbul Alameen? Okay, and one of the reasons mentioned in the Tafsir Kitab is to grant dignity and honor and respect and revere the human beings. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the human beings, they are ashraful makhluqat. They are the most noblest of creation. So there's a concept in balagha called taghlib, and you'll find this in a lot of places. For example, warafa'a abawayhi, and he raised his parents al-arsh to the throne. So abawayhi is actually the dual form of abawan, which literally means, if you look on the surface, it means two fathers, but dominance is going to the father over the mother in terms of not virtue, but in terms of easy in pronunciation. And that's why abawan is used, and when you make it possessive in the nasb state, it'll be abawayhi. In regards, in contrast that to warafa ummayhi, it's easier to say abawayhi. So you will find this in a lot of places in Arabic. The Prophet ﷺ used to sometimes suffice on aswadain, the two black ones. Now that's in reference to water and dates. Dates we understand is black, but water is transparent. So why was aswadain used? Okay, when water is transparent, a word like abyad could have been used. Well, there's dominance to given over the khajur, the color of the khajur, and the color of the date over the water, and it's mentioned as aswadain. And there is a caution, a precaution from using the word abyadain, because white denotes leprosy. So in this book, you'll find balagha points. You'll even find just general grammatical points of benefit. So for example, here we have عبادة الأصنام. إذا أضيف المصدر إلى مفعوله جره لفظا. Now whenever a masdar is mudaf towards maf'ul, it gives it jar, literally وكان منصوبا حكما, and in terms of its place value i'rab, it's actually in the state of nasb. So when you say worshipping of the idols, the word asnam in terms of on evidence and what's on apparent is mudaf ilay, but in terms of its place value, it's actually masdar mudaf towards the maf'ul bihi, worshipping of the idols. So this helps in translation as well. Sometimes when we're translating, we might need to give the meaning of it being the maf'ul rather than being the mudaf ilayh. So idol worshipping, we can even translate as like that as well. So once we understand the broader concepts of grammar, it'll actually widen our scope in terms of and improve and enhance our ability to translate Arabic text into English appropriately and accordingly. So alhamdulillah, that's story number 8 complete, and inshallah we'll be working on story number 9. Okay, so for now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To deepen your understanding of the Arabic language, explore our range of courses, including Balagha, Arabic rhetoric, covering the 3 core disciplines of Arabic rhetoric. The Arab course, which offers a comprehensive study of diacritical markings, and the Tarkib course, focusing on sentence structure and composition, along with many other enriching programs. To learn more, click the link in the description.